How's it going, everyone? My name is Jalen, and welcome to my way too late 2026 NBA mock draft. As you can see, I already have 17 freshmen selected in this draft. I think it's a very great draft, and I think it might be even a historic one with 17 freshmen here being selected in the first round, which would be breaking the 2017 record. Oh, but I'll get into that later. But here, all my stats are coming from Friday 13th, and all my draft positionings will be coming from the same date as the end of the NBA first half of the season. All my measurables will be coming from ESPN or the draft combine if certain players decide to test waters in previous years. But with that being said, let's hop right on into this thing. All right, and starting this thing off, we're going to have the Sacramento Kings here with the first pick. I think this is a very much deserving pick. I think their team has just been very poorly ran. They poorly executed. The talent just doesn't match. They have no direction. They're not playing themselves into the playoffs in any way with Sabonis and a healthy DeRozan and Levine. I just think they just need to clear house and start over. And I think this pick here allows them to do that. So, without further ado, the first overall pick, I have them selecting Darren Peterson. And this is a guy that recent weeks has kind of hurt his name a little bit more, I think, in current time, where he's dealt with a little bit of the injury process. But this is still a clear-cut number one overall pick in my eyes. I think this is the best guard prospect we've seen probably since maybe Kyrie Irving, especially with good comparison with the injury history, not playing a full freshman year. But when he does play, he puts up elite numbers, as you can see here, with 20 points a game. He's really efficient with almost 50% from the floor. And I think this is a lead ball handler, whether you're going to play him more at your one or your two. I don't think it really matters. I think he's just going to be a guy like Luka or any of the high gravitational player like Shea, where they're just going to have the ball in their hand a lot of the time, and it doesn't really matter what position you're going to technically list them at. But like I said earlier, with the injury history, he had a hamstring earlier in the year, which kept him out against some really good teams, which kind of is upsetting. And then he dealt with a little bit of the cramping issue, and he rolled an ankle and he missed a game. So I mean, and then most recently he dealt with the flu, which kind of stems a little bit of this next segment where he's missing a lot of these important games. He's missed the Duke game, he's missed the Kansas State game, he missed the second half of the BYU game, and then he sat out against Arizona with the number one team in the country at the time with the flu. Kansas did overall win that game, but it doesn't matter. Everybody tunes in. You want to watch the number one overall team against the number one overall projected pick. So that was another thing, which is kind of upsetting. But I don't think that takes away from his next level game. I think this is a guy that can just be your franchise player. He's a great three-point shooter, too. He can create his own shot. He's shooting about 7 threes a game right now. And I think he could also be an elite defender. I don't think he is right now, but I think potentially he could be an elite defender, being that elite offensive threat and defensive threat that I think a lot of teams tend to build their number one overall their talent around. And I think this can be a guy that can lead you to a championship, whether or not that's going to happen here in Sacramento or not. But this is the blueprint for that overall prospect. And I think here at Sacramento, I hope they just don't make the wrong decision. I don't think it's hard to make the wrong decision with these top three guys, but I have them here selecting Darren Peterson. All right, here now segueing into pick 2, we have the Washington Wizards on the clock, and this is the team that recently they really changed their roster a lot here, trading for Trae Young and Anthony Davis here in recent days here at the trade deadline. I think those are two really interesting pieces that you're going to now be pairing up with Alex Sarr, Keyshawn George, Bub Carrington, Bilal Coulibaly, and Trey Johnson. I mean, last year's first-round pick. I think this is a great team looking forward, and they have a lot of potential maybe here. And we have them here adding the number 2 pick, and a really good draft in. I have them here selecting AJ DeBonsa out of BYU, another freshman here. And this is, I think in many other years, this would probably be a number 1 overall pick here, cut and day. This is another really great talent here. It's more of a wing scoring threat. I don't think he's He's probably not going to be a main ball handler. I think he definitely is capable of doing it, but I think early on here you have Trae Young. I think this is me a guy that is really going to put AJ in the spot to score. He's a really efficient scorer. He's going to score here with maybe 1 to 2 dribbles, and he's already at the basket. He's not going to take a lot of time isolating, try to break people down. It's going to be 1 to 2 quick moves and just get into the basket or a quick mid-range pull-up. It's really been fun to watch. He's really developed his three-point shot here coming the past couple of weeks. Recently, I think he's shooting 52% coming into his last game. And I wasn't personally expecting him to take that huge of a leap of three-point shooting throughout this year. Like earlier on, he was around early 30s, maybe 31, 32%, and then we've just seen him almost get really hot here at this point. It's been really fun to watch with his just elite scoring talent, just every asset of the game. And it's a really fun player here that we're going to get to watch hopefully in the next 15 years, maybe even 20 years away. NBA science is starting to get, or sports science, but I think he can also be an elite wing defensive talent. He has a really crazy wingspan. He can sit down and really lock in on the defensive end. I think he does have some lapses where he takes some plays off, but I mean, what high-level star doesn't nowadays? It just, I think he gets some lackadaisical plays here in college. He's not really 97% locked in maybe at times, but this is a clear-cut number 1 overall pick most years, like I said, but I think you're getting a steal here. This is probably be, if not your number 1, maybe your number 2 overall talent on your team, and I think you're getting a really great pick here with AJ Dubonsa. I think that he's probably probably the second best or most pro-ready player in this draft behind Darren Peterson, but no hate on him whatsoever here going at 2. I think this in most years this would be a number 1 pick, and then you can't really hate on him too much more from that. I think this is a great talent, and I think Washington gets a piece that's just going to help them in the future, just hopefully get back into contention, maybe even be an interesting team in the coming years and bring some winning basketball back to the D.C. area. All right, and then next year we'll have the number 3 overall pick, and this is going to be owned by the Atlanta Hawks, and this is coming from the Derek Queen trade of last year's draft night, which in hindsight is not the greatest trade, but this is also the other end of the Trae Young trade where you give away your franchise guy for another guy that's blossoming in Jalen Johnson, but here I have them selecting Cameron Boozer. I think just because he is selected here at number 3 does not make him the worst of the 3 guys. I think he definitely has a lot of potential too. I think there's a reason why he's the big 3 in this year's draft, and he just happens to be the unfortunate guy that does have to be picked 3 in this situation. But that being said, I do think he can be an elite rebounding prospect. I think the Hawks definitely need some more rebounding talent now that you got rid of Capella. You get your 17 or 18 games of Porzingis. I mean, now you have Jacques Lando coming out here looking like an all NBA guy, but I think I don't think he is a center per se, but you can't pass up on this talent. I think he will play a little bit of small ball 5 potentially in the next level anyway, come playoff time or situational basketball. I think he definitely has his frame to fill out a little bit more. I think he probably might come in measuring at a little bit taller than 6'9" here. But I think that he definitely could share the court with Jalen Johnson with it. And I think he definitely has a high IQ that is really being shown off here at Duke, where he's really the whole focal point of that offense, where he's playmaking out of double teams. He's bringing the ball up at times. He's creating sometimes out of pick and rolls, whether it's a screener or the ball handler, which he's really just shown the versatility of his full-on game, and I think this is a great selection here. And I think just with your high IQ and the way that the basketball is starting to trend in these next couple of years, where you're going to have more forwards out there than per se guards and bigs, I think you get ahead of the curve here and you pair him with Reece Shea and Jalen Johnson. You kind of have a solid 3 that can really do anything you can ask them for and all defend to a certain extent. I don't think Cameron Boozer will be the greatest wing defender or even defender altogether. I don't think he is the greatest shot blocker at this level right now of basketball, college basketball. I think he definitely can become a better defender. I don't think you necessarily need to be a shot blocker to be a good rim protector. I think the steals reflect that he has a high IQ, read passing lanes, see things before they overall happen. I think he plays with another big right now, which kind of affects your numbers a little bit. But I do think that he can at least change some shots. I do think he does need a little bit more of an effort on the defensive end. Sometimes he does look like a cone, which is a little bit upsetting, but not everybody's going to have a full, complete game, and I do think he needs to work a little bit more on the defensive end. I think teams recently have just realized you can just send a bunch of people at him on the offensive end, and I think he does need to become a little bit better of a passer out of the double team, but this is another 19-year-old kid. Nobody has a full, complete game. I think the next level, you're not going to be able to double team him the way that you're double teaming him right now. I think his turnovers are really not reflecting how well of a playmaker that he can be at times. And I think this is a really complete, full-on prospect here at 3. And I think this is a great guy to be pairing with Jalen Johnson going forward for the Atlanta Hawks. And then next here we'll have the Indiana Pacers on the clock at 4. And this is a pick that's coming from ultimately an accidental tank here. I think they made an amazing trade. I think that was coming after Game 6, maybe after Game 5, to trade for their first-round pick back. Can't exactly remember where they came from, but what an amazing trade where Tyrese Halliburton unfortunately suffers an Achilles tear and misses the entire year. But you pair him now coming back with the 4th overall pick, and he beats a Zubac, and maybe they could be a finals team once again. So the future's looking bright for them again in the coming years. Here we'll have them selecting Caleb Wilson. And I don't really think they need another forward per se, but his defensive upside and his ability to just be a switch defender, I think you just cannot pass on that. I think he's probably the best defensive prospect in this class, and then I think it's Caleb Wilson, and then maybe 2 or 3 spots, and then the next guy. I think this is a one-of-one elite defensive talent. I think he's probably the most athletic guy, maybe a top 5 athletic guy in the United States, and I don't think that might be too crazy to say if you watch him play. I think he's really wiry. He's a crazy second jump. He really reminds me of the Thompson twins if you added maybe like 3 or 4 more inches to his height, and his otherworldly athleticism is just mind-boggling at times watching him play, and I think he'll be a really fun guy to pair with that high octane offense with Halliburton. He's not going to be a very high usage offensive player. I think right now his numbers, he's playing in a lot less of a competition playing in college basketball. I think he's just overall dominating right now, putting up 20 and 10. But his game doesn't really reflect the readiness for the pro level. I don't think this is a guy that's going to be able to create his own jump shot at a high level. I think he's really going to be dependent on people like Halliburton to get him in spots, which I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing. I think he can play the dunker spot in certain situations, maybe be a screen and roll guy, and maybe guard the other team's best offensive player. And I don't think that's really going to be too much to ask of him on a night in and out basis. I don't think he's really the greatest shooter at this time, shooting only about 26%. He's only attempting, I think, 1.3 threes a game right now, so it's really not the greatest shooter. He's also not really a willing shooter at this point, but he does get to the free throw line right now at about 7.5 shots a game, and he's shooting around 71% right now. I think that does give you a little bit of hope that he can potentially become a shooter in the future, but at this point in time, he's not really close in my per se. I don't think he's there, and I don't really think I think he's maybe 3 or 4 years away from being at least a respectable shooter. But again, with the athleticism and the overall defensive talent, I think that he can be when you're pairing with a championship team. I think this gets the Indiana Pacers a really good wing prospect that I think that they're looking for. That could be just a really efficient and effective player for them in the going future. All right, the next year we'll have pick 5. It's going to be owned by the Brooklyn Nets, and this is a team that just they don't really have a lot going for them. Just another dumpster fire. This is just they really need everything, which kind of makes it fun for me. I get to pick whatever I want here, and I think I'm going to go with the most high upside, and that is going to be Michael Brown Jr. out of Louisville. And that might be a little bit of a questionable statement saying most high upside, but outside of inconsistencies, I think this is the best point guard in this class. I think he showed his higher potential, or his highs of his highs this summer playing for FIBA basketball. And that was a team with Koa Pete, with AJ DeBonce, and a lot of other guys that were probably going to be selected here. And he was the MVP, the clear-cut just leader of that team. And I don't think his consistencies have really shown yet in these short 16 games of college, but in the games when he has it going and the 3-point shot's going, there's not really much you can do with him, and he's a really good point guard when his game is going. A few nights ago, he had 45 against NC State, and they came 10 of 16 off of 3-point shooting. He has an otherworldly range, and I think he has a chance to be your lead playmaker, your focal point of your offense. Assist numbers really might not reflect the high usage of being a playmaker that he has been when he is healthy, but they're just a really high octane offense. They're high pace offense at Louisville. They want to shoot a bunch of threes. They want to get up and down, and sometimes they're just taking a quick 3-point shot, and that's just how that offense is going to be. But this is a guy that can work out of the pick and roll. He does turn it over a few too many times for my liking. He's turning it over 3 times currently a game, but that's also just a factor of Louisville playing at such a high pace and just getting up and down the court so many times. I think it's probably going to happen a lot with the Brooklyn Nets in the first couple of months of his rookie year, but I don't think that's going to take anything away from his offensive talent and the level that he can play, being a 6'4", 6'5" guard who's maybe going to come in with a 37-inch vertical, can shoot it maybe 4 or 5 steps behind the 3-point line, just overall just be your lead point guard. I think this is a guy that you can maybe even build around. Maybe he could be your number 1, number 2, maybe even number 3 lead scorer, and just be a focal point of your offense going forward the next 5 to 10 years, hopefully, for the Brooklyn Nets. And I think this is a great pick here at 5, and I think this is something that could probably change the culture overall in Brooklyn. And maybe be the first part of that future that you're hoping you're build with these and end the tank years and move on to a better future, hopefully, here in Brooklyn. All right, and then here with the Utah Jazz here at pick 6, after making the trade for Jaren Jackson at the trade deadline, I think this team is trying to win more games in the future. So I think with this pick, they're going to start trying to hopefully head in that direction. So I have them here selecting Keaton Wagler out of Illinois, another freshman. Shooting guard, can play a little bit of point guard. He's played a little bit of point guard recently the past couple weeks after Illinois' point guard and Caleb Boswell has gone down with a wrist injury. I think he's a really, really interesting combo guard here. I think mainly he's going to play off ball. Prototypically, he's a really good off ball guard. We can put a little bit of wing. I wouldn't really put him there. He's not the greatest defender. He's a little bit undersized right now, but what freshman is really coming in at fully filled into their frame 99% of the time. I think this is a guy that can slide in easily into most NBA offenses. It's not going to take a lot of shots. It's not he can be a high volume shooter or high volume scorer and shooter. Doesn't really need a lot of offense ran for him. He can run the offense too. Like I said, in the past couple of weeks he's been running the offense. He erupted for 43 in his first game, running the lead guard against Purdue. Really, really fun, interesting guard. He came out at really nowhere. I think 3-star recruit. coming into this year, not a lot of people had him on their radar. I don't think anybody expected him coming into this year to be top 10, let alone 6 in this draft. I think this is a really interesting player and someone that's going to be rising in the coming weeks. And I think this might be one of the most interesting prospects of this draft. Maybe look back and it's like one of the stars that nobody saw coming. All right, and then here with number 7, the Dallas Mavericks, another team that I think everybody's heard about the Luka trade at this point. You then turn the Luka trade's assets into Anthony Davis, and then you turn Anthony Davis into a guy that was selected before Luka in that trade in Marvin Bagley. So, very interesting trade as it all has played out, but I think with them trading Anthony Davis, they're completely going to try to rebuild around Cooper Flag. So, with that being said, I have them here selecting Kingston Flemings out of Houston, another freshman, another point guard. I think this is probably your most well-rounded point or guard prospect, maybe even just your point guard prospect outside of Darren Peterson. But this is most people's consensus number 1 point guard at this point in time. I like Michael Brown a little bit more, personal preference. I think he has a little bit higher of an upside, but Kingston Flemings has not a lot of holes in his game at this point. He's really efficient, effective, can get to the free throw line a little bit, only about 3 attempts a game. Probably want to see that a little bit more the next level, but he's only shooting about 3.5 threes game 2 right now. Again, you probably want to see that a little bit higher at the next level, but you can get downhill, 3-level scorer, really good mid-range, left hand, right hand, pull up. Does not matter. This is a guy that also scored 42 against Texas Tech earlier this year, so he has the elite high-volume scoring ability. It's not really a whole lot wrong with his game. He's a really scrappy defender, rare freshman starter for Kelvin Sampson at Houston. He's coming in wiry frame, averaging about 2 steals a game right now. This can be also a point-of-attack defender in the next level. I think this is a really interesting prospect. Like I said, there's not a lot of holes in his game. Some people have even started to compare him to SGA. I think that's a little out of hand or a little early for that, but I can see the comparison. He's calm when he plays. There's not really a lot that rushes him. He's some sneaky athleticism. Like I said, he likes to play out of the mid-range game. Not really the greatest shooter, high-volume shooter at this point. I think that will come with more time. I mean, he's only 19. Again, this is another freshman, like I said. But I think this is a really safe point guard to pair here with Cooper Flag going forward, and I think this is a great pick for the Dallas Mavericks. All right, the next here we have at number 8, Memphis Grizzlies. This is a team that has recently said they're going to be blowing it up. They traded Desmond Bane in the offseason for 4 or 5 first-round picks from Orlando Magic. You recently trade Jaren Jackson Jr. here at the trade deadline to Utah. Surprised Ja Morant's still here. It's another guy you're really looking to get out of the door, but I think with them trying to turn a new leaf and start a new era, I think this is a perfect opportunity, the perfect draft to try to capitalize on that. And here I have the Memphis Grizzlies selecting Darius Akelf Jr. Now, it's another point guard. I think this is 3 of the last 4 picks have been point guards here, but this is another guy I think that's just flying under the radar somehow. This is Calipari guard. I mean, that's just been it's just been a translation in the NBA. They've just all seem to be good. You can't really miss with a Calipari point guard, let alone a guard. I don't know how he's really slept on. A lot of people are going under the radar. He's shooting 50% from the field. He shoot the 3 ball. He's shooting about 5 attempts a game. Scoring you can see 21 points a game, 6 assists. He's had 4 games with 10 plus assists this year. Doesn't really turn it over all that much. I think he's posting probably around a 30% usage percentage. He has the ball in his hands a lot. He's really comfortable with the ball. It's a pit bull type of mentality player. He likes to get downhill, gets the rim. Really twitchy, just strong for his size. I think he has a lot more muscle he can fill out into his frame too. I think this is just going to be another really good guard for Memphis. And I think this is a guy that you can ultimately pass the torch and get rid of Ja Morant and not really struggle too much. I don't think you're ever going to find somebody with that athleticism, but Darius Akelf's really good athlete too. He's going to get to the rim. He might even dunk on a couple people here and there, but I think you get another gritty, tough-nosed guy that's going to fit the city of Memphis, and I think you're really happy ultimately with this pick here. It's the guy that can work out the pick and roll. He's going to be comfortable with the ball in his hands a lot again. I think he's going to help you with some shooters that you have on your team, and Cam Spencer, and get to move him back off ball. I think this is going to be a guy that you're going to have around for hopefully the coming years and start. Hopefully, we're contending to get back to playoff contention. But I think his defense leaves a little bit to be desired at times. He does have games where he can get in the passing lanes, can be a scrappy defender, but ultimately I think he just puts up more statistical numbers than that overall being consistent defender at times. I think being in Memphis, it's just a tough city. I think he's going to learn to be a little bit more scrappy, just want to play a little bit more defense, and I think he definitely has a frame in size and the ability to play more defense and be an elite defender, but I think this is a great pick here for Memphis, and I think you just get your next stepping stone for your era of basketball here. You trade John Morant, and you don't look back here with the next point guard here in Darius Acuff. And then next year we'll have the Milwaukee Bucks at 9, and this is a team that, I mean, they teased all of the world saying they're going to trade Giannis here at the trade deadline. I think the trade for Giannis is definitely inevitable. I think that's probably a better move to make in the offseason. I think the Bucks definitely did the right thing to hold on to him for a little bit longer, and I will be making this pick imagining Giannis is no longer on this team. So I have them here selecting Koa Pete, a forward out of Arizona, and I don't think this is really ultimately your plug and play, and you lose Giannis, you get Koa Pete, and everything's all and well, but I think this definitely is a cornerstone to what is looking to trend more to a rebuild for this team. I think you have a couple solid guards. You pick up Cam Thomas. I don't know why the Nets waive him, but I mean, I think he's definitely one of the better scorers in the NBA. I think that could be a lead guard to pair with Kevin Porter Jr. You found the emergence here of Ryan Rollins. You sign Miles Turner in the offseason. I think here's another nice defensive plug and play, strong forward that you can plug in and fill for the hole for Giannis, essentially. Not maybe be the greatest team, but I think this is a guy that if you work on him, you develop him, I think he definitely can learn to shoot a better three-point shot in the future. He's since December 29th, he's shooting 50% from three, albeit he's only shot 12 threes. He shot 2 of 2 in a game against Arizona State, which is it's pretty. I mean, it's trending the right direction. I mean, beginning of the year, he wasn't even attempting threes, so for him to at least be shooting him now and let alone knocking him down, I think that's a great sign for whatever franchise is going to be getting him in the future. I think that's the guy that's going to be really, really, a really good defender for forwards, maybe even play a little bit small ball center at times, being 6'8", coming in 235 as I'm listed it right now. He's probably going to come in closer to 240, if not stronger, a little bit heavier come around draft time. But another freshman prospect, a younger guy. I think that there's not really too many things you can expect of him on offense other than maybe being a screen guy. Maybe he can play out of the short roll a little bit and hit a couple corner passes, or maybe hit a big in a dunker spot. But I think this is just a defensive asset, good rebounder, stronger talent. Maybe he can come out and space the floor, and maybe ultimately in the future be a 3-and-D guy. I don't see him being a high volume playmaker. Don't ever really see him being a high volume scorer, but I think you definitely need guys like this to build around future talents, and I think you definitely have a high volume scorer player now on your roster in Cam Thomas. And if you're going to have players like Cam Thomas, you're going to need people who play defense. So whether it is Cam in the future, but I think, or not, you draft somebody else, I think this is definitely an easy plug and play to replace Giannis for the future. And the coming years will probably have some better offensive scoring talents to pair around Kobe Pete. But I think this is a great pick here for the Bucks. And I think that you get another freshman that's just instantly ready, going to come in with a strong NBA frame, just be ready to play 82 games of NBA basketball. And then next year we have a pick 10 for the Chicago Bulls, and man, this is another dumpster fire. I promise you, I will not be drafting a guard for this team. Seems like they traded for every single available guard in the NBA at this trade deadline, but we also get rid of Vooch. A little foreshadowing here. I have them here selecting Jaden Quayton's the center out of University of Kentucky. He's our first sophomore, but technically could be a freshman. Went to college early last year. So really young. He played his entire freshman year, or majority of his freshman year at 18 or 17 years old. He's only 18 and a half. I think he'll be 19 come draft time. Um, Numbers there, you can see he played 4 games currently this year. He's coming back from an ACL tear that ended his year early last year. I think he played about 24 games last year. Came back from ACL tear, as I said. Did not ultimately feel comfortable continuing to play this year for Kentucky, and has been shut down for gameplay. But I think this, not to take anything away, I think this is still one of the best rim protectors. I think this is probably the best elite defensive prospect or center prospect in this class. Last year at Arizona State, before transferring, he averaged 2.5 blocks and a block or a steal per game. Like I said, only being 17.5, playing his freshman year. Elite defender. I think he does also maybe leave some room to shoot some 3-point shots maybe in the future. Attempted 32 of them his freshman year. Only made 6. It's about, 18% from 3. Not great, but I think he's showed some willingness. Maybe that's just a young kid excited to shoot some threes being in college, but I think he definitely maybe could get there. I mean, you've had 2 years of rehabbing an ACL, so hopefully you've picked up a basketball to shoot some shots. But while he was playing, he's only been a 45% career shooter from free throw. The free throw line, he's not been a great shooter, but all things aside, I think this is the guy you're probably drafting for his defense. You get rid of Vucevic. The Bulls need a center. You need some defensive anchor. I think this is a perfect time to ultimately rebuild your franchise. Get a defensive prospect in there. I think this is your first draft pick since Wendell Carter at the position. I think this is a much better defender. I think he also has defensive switchability to come out and guard some guards at times in the 3-point line. But this is a guy that's probably going to average 2 blocks easily a game. Anything he's going to give you on offense after that, I think this is going to be a lob threat. Definitely going to be somebody that plays above the rim, and maybe could develop some type of playmaking game. I don't know if he could ever be your lead ball handler at that level. I think maybe being a hub at the time, at the 3-point line, if he ever does get to a level spacing it out, mid-range 3-point shot, I think he definitely has the IQ to pass the ball a little bit, especially playing in a Mark Pope system, whether he's practicing or not. I definitely think the sky's the limit for this guy, and I think this is definitely the anchor that Chicago ultimately needs at that center position. I think perfect plug and play. Here you move on from Vooch, like I said, and you get complete opposite defensive heavy minded center, and I think this is a match made in heaven for the Chicago Bulls here at 10. And then now leading into the pick 11 here for the San Antonio Spurs. This is coming by way of the Atlanta Hawks. This is a team that's really emerged and being a fun team with Victor Wembanyama. They're running a 3-guard system almost with picks of Dylan Harper last year, and you have the former Rookie of the Year in Stephon Castle and De'Aaron Fox to mix in that too. I think this is a very fun team and definitely going to be a fun team to watch in the future, especially bearing Victor Wembanyama's health. But here I'll have them selecting the Axel Lindenberg out of Michigan. Believe it or not, I do mock older prospects. Here's my first senior of this class. This is a bit older of a prospect. He'll be 24 come his first rookie game, but I don't think that takes anything away from just overall the prospect that he is at this point in time. This is probably one of the most pro-ready guys. I think easily could have came out last year in last year's class and been a top 20 pick. I think NIL money definitely played a huge part for him to come back and decide to give it one more go here at Michigan. But I think he's probably the most versatile defender in this year's class. Easily can play and guard 1 through 5. I know it's a very loosely thrown out there. I don't think he can play point guard and defend there, but I think in certain stretches he definitely can stay in front of certain shifty, smaller point guards. I think he can match up with certain centers and guard them for certain stretches of a time. I think this is also a very versatile offensive player. I think he can be a Swiss Army knife at times and maybe even be a little bit of a creator, play out of a short roll, can be a screener at times. Can also run out in the pick and roll, where Michigan's playing like a lineup almost with 2 power forwards and a center and a Deamara. So he's the actual numbers comfortable being a pick and roll ball handler too. He did a little bit of it at UAB before he transferred to Michigan. Again, this is a really, really great prospect here, and I think this is a great plug and play. I don't know if Harrison Barnes will be around next year on the last year of his deal. I think this is a great plug and play, almost a veteran like guy coming out of college, but I think the one hole for his game currently right now is just the 3-point shot, where we've seen his percentages dip off about 10% in the past 6 or 7 weeks. Not the greatest, but again, college basketball is in a much smaller magnitude. Only playing about 24 games at this point. He's been about a 34% career shooter at this point in time. For this point, I think he definitely can stay consistent catch and shoot guys, especially out of the corner, which I think he'll play a lot of that coming to play with the Spurs here. And I think this would definitely be a guy that can definitely plug into that starting lineup at a point in time, being a really, like I said, versatile defender. This will be another scary guy to add to that defensive nightmare that's in San Antonio currently. And I think I see a no-brainer here, plug and play guy. Smooth transition into the NBA, and I think he pairs really well with Wembanyama, especially if he can develop that 3-point shot at the NBA level. And that's why I have him here selected at 11 to the San Antonio Spurs. All right, then here for the Hornets, I think this is a current day. This is a really fun team. Going into the All-Star break, they ripped off a really long win streak, and they're one of the hottest teams in the NBA right now. It's always been a fun team, whether or not they've been good at winning games, but I think maybe Charles Lee might have that team. The overall dynamic of the team just might be shifting a little bit, and we all know LaMelo's a very fun highlight reel waiting to happen, but Con Knipple's been really fun. You have Miles Bridges, Brandon Miller's been there now a couple of years. He's starting to turn into a little bit of a good prospect, or a little bit of a player there, and I think they're just a couple pieces away from being maybe even a playoff team, and it's very exciting for Hornets fans. But I have them here selecting Heinz Steinbach out of Washington, another freshman, a little bit older of a freshman. This is a European guy by way of Germany. He'll be, I think, 20 come his first game of the year, or of his rookie year. Not really too old of a prospect, that's pretty common nowadays, but this is a really interesting center, or I think he might be able to play a little bit of forward. I think this is a guy that definitely has shown some comfortability putting the ball on the floor. I think in the next level he'll be able to attack some closeouts at times. I think he'll show some comfortability out in the 3-point line. On the wing, I think he might be able to play a little bit of the 4, but I think ultimately the Hornets really do need another force down low in the center. Ryan Cockburner's cool. I think Moose is really cool to see that emergence. But I think you need another piece. They're both not really the greatest shooters at this point in time. I think you get a guy in Hans who might be able to space the floor a little bit more. He's shooting only a little under 2 threes a game. I think around 1.7 right now. But I think he definitely has a nice touch. He's not really going to play above the rim, but he's shown a little bit of fadeaways, a little bit of spinning touches around the rim, left hand, right hand. He's comfortable playing back to the basket. It's an okay screener right now. I think he definitely has room to put on some more size. Another young guy, like I said, but I think this is another great piece that you can add to that core that's starting to build in Charlotte. And I think this is another low volume, low risk ultimately, but I think high reward, and this can be a guy that if the NBA starts to trend back toward this double big lineup, I think this is a guy that you can have you're comfortably put on the floor playing your 4 or 5 at certain stretches per game. And if he can continue to shoot the 3-point shot at the level that he has, I think the sky's the limit for him being maybe even your 7th or 8th best guy on your team. And I think this definitely gives you a really fun and interesting bench piece right here at 12. And I think that's a great hit for Charlotte here in a team that might be turning towards more of a playoff team, hopefully, in the next couple of years. And then, sadly, here at 13, we have a pick to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I ultimately hate picks for them. They don't really need anything. It's hard drafting for them. But that being said, I have him here taking Nate Ament out of Tennessee. Another freshman, but this is a guy that has maybe top 5 potential in this class. And if I would have been recording this a couple weeks ago, I might have had a little bit different of an opinion on Nate Ament, maybe even 2 months ago. But recent weeks, man, this guy has been really, really, really good, especially since SEC play started. This guy was started off the year shooting sub 40% from the field. Really inefficient, just kind of looked lost out there. Maybe looked like he was a year or two away from the NBA instead of being that ultimate one-and-done, high-touted high school prospect that everybody thought he was going to be. And this was a guy that was a top 5 recruit coming out of high school. Prolonged his recruitment class and recruiting decision all the way towards the end of the year, then ultimately ended up picking Tennessee, as you can see. But this is a guy that really did not look good at the beginning of the year. Could not make a layup, couldn't hit a shot to save his life, and I think that's reflected a little bit in his numbers. But coming into SEC play now, which I think started for him December 30th against South Carolina, he's averaged 24.6 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists on 47%, 37 from 3, and about 82 or 83% from the free throw line. He's getting to the free throw line efficiently and effectively, and he's been a completely different player. This is the guy that everybody thought we were getting, and just completely changed his honestly his draft status. It's a guy that I honestly thought maybe should have stayed for another second year, maybe even another year, but wow. SEC plays Nate Ament has been a completely different monster, and he's been really, really fun to watch, especially in games against Kentucky where he's just been a completely different beast. It's been really fun to watch. He's a really good rebounder, starting to turn into a strong rebounder. This is a guy that can dribble and get to his own shot, and he's 6'10", as you can see. He started to create his own shot, and he can get to the mid-range pull-up. His touch around the basket is starting to get a lot better. He's comfortable being an attacker, putting the ball on the floor. I think he ultimately might be a little bit more of a spot-up shooting guy in the NBA, more like a Jabari Smith. I don't know if his defense or rim protecting are really at that level either, but I think he definitely has some potential, and I definitely see a different light of Nate Ament coming these past couple weeks. And I think that OKC, you replace Usman Jang and that wirely frame prospect that's just going to develop on your bench, and what better player to have than a guy that was a top 5 recruit coming out of high school. So I think OKC just gets even richer here with the 13th pick, and what more could they want really to sit on their bench and clap for Shea. So that's what I have here at 13. And then here, wrapping up the lottery selections, we have the Portland Trailblazers. This is another really hard team to select for. They don't really have a direction. They're kind of 14th or 16th best team, it feels like, the past few years. So leading up into that, here we have them selecting LeBaron Thielen Jr. out of Alabama. And this is another guy that really has benefited. He could have been easily, I think, a first-round pick last year's class, like I said about Yaxel. This is another guy that just came back and has really benefited from playing out another year of college basketball and coming back because of NIL money, but he's seen his draft stock skyrocket, so it ultimately was the right decision for him too. But this here guy, he's a really interesting combo guard. I don't think he really is a point guard, and I don't really think he is a shooting guard, but I think he definitely plays them both really well. Or I think he plays the shooting guard a lot better than the point guard, but I think he definitely can play spurts of a point guard. I think he definitely will turn it over if you put more pressure on him. I don't think he ultimately sees the floor as well as you would want a lead point guard, but as a guy to go out there and just fill it up, I think he's well, funny enough, a really great comparison for CJ McCollum. I think this is a guy that I think you bring back Dame, maybe you get his younger reincarnated running mate, and then this is your try to get maybe into the seventh seed because the West is just a stacked conference. But I think you have Scoot Henderson. You can't ultimately wait there forever. I think players like Caleb Love this year have definitely stepped up. You're playing CDC Cisco a lot more minutes. Drew Holiday and Jeremy Grant are definitely on their way out of the door. I think you're probably going to try to trade those pieces. I think this is ultimately you're looking for another wing piece, and I think what better selection than probably one of the better combo guards in this draft and this whole draft cycle. So I think this guy that you ultimately can just plug in. Maybe he comes in averages like 8 to 11 points off your bench and just a really fun fan favorite guard the next coming years for his rookie contract. And I don't think you were making the wrong decision here going and getting a fun, crafty player in LeBaron Fallon. And starting off our first selections outside of the lottery, I have here the Kings of the Play-In, the Miami Heat. Here selecting at 15, and I have them selecting Tonde Esafu, another freshman out of Baylor, and this is another really fun prospect. I mean, I don't know how many times I'm gonna say it, but this class is just really star-studded. But this is an Ant clone. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. You throw on 5 seconds of his tape, and it's like, is Anthony Edwards back in college? It's really fun to watch. I think this is a guy that can fill it up with some of the best of them. But that being said, is scoring really everything. He's another guy that falls in the class of bring your own basketball. He can get into modes of being really sharing some tunnel vision, not really seeing the rest of the floor. And when he's hot, it works. But when he's not on, it's not really the most efficient basketball. It's not really the greatest of shooter right now. He's a really, really, really pretty form in my opinion, but it ultimately hasn't been going down. Like I said, in this short stretch, it's common. It's short stretch of games, 24 games, and everybody's going to shoot at the best at all times. But this is a guy that can get downhill and get to the rim with some of the best. Earlier I said Caleb Wilson might be one of the best athletes in America. I don't think he's at that level, but he's definitely in the next tier of the Anthony Edwards, LeBron's back early in his career. I mean, or probably not earlier, 2018, maybe 19. But really athletic freak. I think this is a guy that can be really good at getting to the rim, creating his own shot. I think on the defensive end, he's really, really strong, filled out frame. As you can see, I think that the steals are going to be reflected in his ultimately the ability just to take people out of the game plan. I think this is a guy that can be a point of attack defender and be just a lockdown ultimate defensive force, as well as being an immediate bucket on the offensive end. But that comes with efficiencies. I think this is a guy that definitely needs to learn how to play the game the right way. He's playing for Baylor right now, which is a team that they have a lot of holes. They don't have a point guard. They don't have really a center. They're missing a lot of pieces. And I'm hoping he doesn't develop too many bad habits, but Heat culture, it's all about. Pat Riley, wake up. I think this is a great pick here for you. If you do make this selection, I think this is the guy you're getting at 15, and it can ultimately be probably your leading scorer one day if everything pans out the right way. But I think there's still a long ways to get there, but Tonde Esafu is my selection here at 15 for the Miami Heat. All right, and then next year we're going to have the Golden State Warriors on the clock at 16, and this is a team that really needs to hit on this selection, in my opinion, if you're going to try to maximize the last couple career years. I don't know if you're going to have Jimmy Butler for the foreseeable future. Who knows if he even plays next year? Porzingis, is he even going to play more than 15 games next year? We'll see. But with that being said, I have them here selecting Patrick Ngumba out of Duke. Sophomore big. I think this is the center that they've ultimately been looking for it feels like half of Curry's career since Bogut. was I don't know if he got hurt. I can't remember. I think he tore his ACL, but either way. I think they've been looking for a center for a long time. I think this is definitely a guy that shows some ability to pass. I feel like sometimes he might remind you of a little bit of a Black Jokic, which is, I know it's a crazy comparison, but I feel like his feel for the game on the offensive end, I definitely think he can be a hub at times. His passing ability is, I think, very underrated. It's not reflected in these assist numbers whatsoever. I've seen him throw, some just unbelievable bounce passes to a cutting wing. It's just beautiful to watch sometimes. I think he really can thrive in a system where Golden State's going to want to try to get up 30-plus three-point shots a game. And I think having him run a hub-like system at times where you're going to have Curry, the greatest player in the world, Brandon Bajemski, coming around the screens and trying to get a bunch of curl threes and whatnot. I think this is a great hub center, and that's not to say anything for the defensive end either. I think that he can be that rim protector. I think he can be a defensive monster on the defensive end. I think he definitely has the size. He's a very fluid athlete. He moves really well. He ultimately might not have the greatest verticality and be the greatest athlete, but I think he makes up for it in IQ. And he can block shots, but I think he also will change a lot of shots with just being in positioning, having his hands up. But he's very handsy at times. I think he's very physical. He's young. He gets frustrated missing bunnies, I think. And then he gets into touch fouls. He gets a lot of the over-the-back calls, unnecessary fouls on the other side of the half court, the other side of the court, I guess, after he's shooting. But a lot of tic-tac touch fouls. But what big doesn't struggle with fouls coming into the league? So I think this is a guy that maybe can give you hopefully 15 to 20 minutes a game next year, maybe even more. We all saw what Quinn Post has done for them for stretches. I think this is a no-brainer. You go get your center, hopefully stretch Curry's career maybe 2 to 3 more years and try to continue to open up that championship window. And next we'll have pick 17 coming from the Orlando Magic as part of the Desmond Bane trade. So this will now be owned by the Memphis Grizzlies. And like I said earlier, they're attempting to tank. They cleared away a lot of their box name players, and Jaren Jackson and Desmond Bane, obviously, like I said. But I have them here selecting Braylon Mullins, another freshman out of UConn. This is, I think, a great pairing and a great recipe to pair with Darius Acuff here, and you get your little 1-2, your point guard, shooting guard, hopefully for the future. But I think this might be the maybe top 4, top 5 3-point shooter, maybe top 3. He has probably the quickest release in this class. Just an elite catch-and-shoot guy. He does not take long for him to get his 3-point shot off. He had a little bit of an ankle injury earlier in the year. Sidelined him for 7 games. It took about 4 games for him to kind of get back into the swing of things, but since then he really has not missed a beat. This is a guy that if he gets a second of anything, of space, light, anything, he's shooting it. And the numbers reflected he's shooting 38% to this point, and he's a fan favorite from watching UConn. I really like the way that he plays. I think who can't enjoy just a guy that just comes out and just sprays it from 3. I think this will definitely be a guy that Memphis will need. You need some more shooting. I think this is a guy that doesn't need the ball ultimately to be effective, and this is a great pairing, I think, with Darius Acuff and trying to reunite maybe the Desmond Bane, John Morant 1-2 and get a new era to hopefully change your franchise again. But I think he's not really too great of a defender. He doesn't really do too much else as a basketball player to this point. He gets in a little bit of foul trouble. He likes to get handsy and scrappy, but I think that's also a good sign that maybe he will be a scrappy defender in the NBA and just not be a slouch, so he can at least be a plus player overall and have some type of impact outside of just shooting the ball. But I think this is a really good pick here for Memphis, and you're just getting a really solid shooter that can just fill in some type of minutes for your bench. And then here next we have pick 18. This is coming by way of pretty sure the Jared McCain trade a few days ago with the trade deadline. A little bit of a questionable trade, I guess, for some people, but again, it's pretty hard to draft for OKC, but I have them here selecting another freshman in Amari Allen out of Alabama. But This might be a little bit of a shock for some people. Not really probably consensus first round pick for a lot of draft experts to this point, but you watch 2 to 3 games of him and you can't tell me he's not a first round pick. I mean, he has the frame to be a defensive guy. He's probably one of the best attack or point of attack defenders in college basketball at this point. Nate Oates really can't keep him off the floor. This is a guy that averaged like 35, 12, and 7 in high school his senior year. He's just a freak athlete, freak player. High volume player. He can create and put it on the floor and create for others. I think he can ultimately play the 2 through the 4 and just be a very versatile piece. And what better place to put him but the Oklahoma City Thunder, and that's really what they have made a killing drafting in recently with guys that can all dribble, shoot it, and pass it. And I think they fill in with, or they follow that mold that has made them the team that they are. And I think they get a great player here in Amari Allen, who's kind of just come out of nowhere. He's a really good shooter. There's not really too many holes in his game. I think this is going to be a low usage guy. Think of almost like an Aaron Wiggins for their team right now, but I think he definitely has some upside to be a playmaker. Maybe could average 2.5, 3, 4, even maybe 5 assists through at times. I think this is definitely like a Jalen Williams player too. I think he definitely has a lot of upside. A little bit older of a freshman. Pretty sure he'll be 20 by the time he's playing his first NBA game, but I think this might be a steal at the end of the day. A lot of people probably won't see this pick coming, but this might be a really good pick when it's all said and done. And that's why I have him here at 18 to the Oklahoma City Thunder. All right, and then next kid here, getting into the 19th pick of the draft. This is by way of the Phoenix Suns going to the Charlotte Hornets. And like I said, this has been a really fun team to watch, but I don't really know what else they really need with a bunch of young prospects they need, or they recently drafted. So I have them here selecting Bennett Sturts. I think every team definitely needs a backup point guard. You recently just traded for Kobe White. Does that change things a little bit? Maybe. Still think Kobe White's more of a combo shooting guard. I think he's a high volume scorer, and I think every one of those guys, I mean, they appreciate getting maybe 3 to 5 points just without having to really work too hard. And I think Bennett Sturts is really going to thrive into being the guy that can get people easier looks on this team. And I think when LaMelo Ball comes off the court, there definitely is a little bit of a dip in the playmaking ability. And I think if you have a chance to have, 48 minutes of high volume playmaking would be amazing. But if you can get 40, I think this definitely benefits your team drastically. And I think this is a great chance to ultimately bolster your bench a little bit here in a pick for Bennett Sturts. I think this is the guy that is definitely overlooked in his college career. This is a JUCO guy. Again, probably could have been a first-round pick last year. Coming out of Drake, follows his coach to now playing at Iowa for his senior year. Really high volume usage point guard. Works on the pick and roll. Works a little bit of isolation. Is a deeper range, a really good shooter. Can create his own 3-point shot. Really comfortable getting to his 3-point shot. I think this is a guy that kind of reminds me of ultimately like a Peyton Pritchard. I think that's a really great combination or comparison. I don't think he really has the per se scoring ability for the NBA level. The handle that Peyton Pritchard has, I don't think very many people do have the handle Peyton Pritchard possesses, but that being said, I do think he is probably a better playmaker than Peyton Pritchard. I think he's probably one of the best playmakers in this class, and I think that's just not ultimately reflected in the assist numbers again, but I would be really excited in having Bennett Sturts come off my bench. But the downside is he's probably going to be a target on the defensive side. I don't think people are really going to just let him play or not get picked in the pick and roll and targeted on the defensive end, so that is a little bit of a downside to his game. I think every level of basketball is going to target him on the defensive side, but aside from that, I think it's playmaking definitely gives Charlotte a chance to bolster their bench here, like I said. And I think it's a great pick here at 19. Okay, and as we start to start to approach the end of this draft, we have the Toronto Raptors here kicking off our 20s. And I have them here selecting Cameron Carr. Now, the Raptors have been a team that have really surprised a lot of teams, or a lot of teams, a lot of fans. I personally didn't see them coming into this year and being as good as they've been. But what team doesn't need another 3-and-D shooting guard and 3-and-D wing? I think his overall length and his wingspan, as you can see in this picture, I think he gives him a versatility to play guard maybe 1 through 3, and even at times maybe even the 4, depending on who's going to be out there. But it's very rare to see a guard average more blocks than steals. But with his length and his tendencies and his just overall IQ, he gets into a lot of positions where he's just there, and he has the length to overall just change a lot of shots and just block a lot of shots, which is just not a rare. It's very rare to see guards do that, but I think it's a very rare blend of defense, and then when he comes back onto the offensive end, he's one of the best shooters in the nation right now. With he's kind of almost, it feels like unlimited range. He's a really crafty scorer, and funny enough, I feel like his comp is like a mini Brandon Ingram at times on the offensive end, where he has this really wiry, skinny frame, but when he gets to his spots, it's hard to stop him once he's going. He's shooting almost 53% from the floor at this point in time. He's not really the most crafty, but he's efficient. He gets to his spots and he rises up with that length. He just shoots over people. And I think he is probably one of the most elite scorers in this class. And I know I've thrown that out there a couple of times, but this truly is one of the most just deep classes from head to toe from what I've seen in the past few years. I think he's really a pro-ready scorer. And like I said, I don't think there's any team in the NBA that doesn't need another 3-and-D bench player. And I think this is an instant plug-and-play guy that doesn't need. But with him being a sophomore, he is a redshirt player. He did sit out 1 year. He transferred in from Tennessee. It's a little bit older prospect, but I think that's better for a playoff team. I think this is just a great guy. I mean, maybe you have him sit on your bench for 1 year, but maybe he comes in 10 to 12 minutes. He looks really well, and I think this is a great pick here at 20. Another steal personally for the Raptors. All right, now entering our 20s here, we have the Detroit Pistons with this pick is by way of the Minnesota the Timberwolves coming at the trade deadline. The Pistons have also been another team that's just been really fun to watch this year. They finally have turned it around with Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, and friends, and it's just been fun to watch overall. I have them here selecting Thomas Haupt. Again, what team doesn't want a 3-and-D player? He is another one of those guys that was maybe a fringe guy last year's draft, part of that UF championship run last year, and then he's come back, and I think he's definitely filled in some holes that he had last year. I mean, I still don't personally believe he's the greatest three-point shooter. I know I just labeled him as a 3-and-D shoot guy, but I don't think the numbers are. I think he's not really ever going to shoot high 40s or ever maybe even touch 40% from 3, in my opinion, but I don't think he's going to need to for the way he plays. I think this is a guy that's coming in at 6'9", can play the forward position, can play maybe the 3 a little bit, or in certain stretches. He's a really, really, really hard worker, and that leads to 33% of his rebounds are coming on the offensive end. He doesn't stop moving. And it translates on the defensive end. He gets chased down blocks. He gets blocks out of nowhere. He gets steals. He just works hard his first one on the floor. Like I said, the offensive rebounding. I think this is just a high motor Detroit basketball player. I think this is a perfect fit. You can pair him in there with Beef Stew coming off the bench, and I think that's just two motors that are just be annoying night in and night out off your bench. And I think this is just a great fit for Detroit here. Like I said, I do think he wants to develop maybe a little bit more of a 3-point shot. what better spot to do it than having a high volume player than like Cade Cunningham? So you're not gonna ever really need to create your own shot. This isn't really a guy that can create his own shot, but he's gonna work really hard on the defensive end and on offense, and just be that motor, that energy guy off the bench that every single team needs. And I think that's a great pick here for Detroit at 21. And we have America's team. Here at 22, we have the Los Angeles Lakers selecting Isaiah Evans, this baby Slim Reaper. We're on the 3-and-D trend. Past two picks have been 3-and-D players, but why not just keep it going with basically just another 3-and-D, different prototype, kind of similar to Cameron Carr, kind of not. Another really good wing defender. I think this isn't really a guy that's going to get to his spot, I don't think, in the next level. I think this is a guy that's just going to sit pretty and be ready to shoot threes whenever he's that kind of asked to or open. But I think the Luka Kennett experiment kind of just going to come to an end. I feel like his time's probably going to be over this offseason. I think every team still needs that three-point piece, and what better team to get, or what better team to draft a prospect from than Duke? I think this is a guy that came back for his sophomore year, didn't play a whole lot last year, really patiently waited, developed, came back in the sophomore year, got off to a slow start, wasn't really shooting the ball the best, but now he's starting to pick up traction. I think this guy's going to be really ready for a tournament run, or conference play run, and then getting into March Madness. I think this is a guy that's going to be just a fan favorite. He can shoot it really well. This is another guy, I think, I've thrown it out there now a couple times, but he's probably completing my top 5 of three-point shooting talents in this first round. I think Lakers always can use three-point talent now as you start pivoting towards Luka's team. And I think this is a guy that definitely can put out there with him and Reeves and not really need the ball, but when they do have the ball, can be effective when given the opportunity. I think this is a great pick here for the Los Angeles Lakers. All right, and then here next we'll have the Atlanta Hawks back on the clock, and this is coming by way of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And with this selection, I have them selecting, believe it or not, another freshman, and Chris Sinak Jr. out of Houston. And he's another really interesting prospect where he's listed at 6'11", he's listed as center, plays center, but he's not really too much of a center outside of rebounding. The defensive numbers are maybe a little bit underwhelming. He does play with JoJo Tugler, who's one of the best shot blockers in the nation, which kind of affects his numbers a little bit. He's not guarding the main post-playing center. Well, he is, but he's not really blocking a lot of shots, per se. He's also not really the greatest screener. He's not in a lot of their screening actions. He's more or less sitting in the corner, getting ready to spot up and shoot. And funny enough, the Hawks have spent, I think, the past 5 years developing Onyeka Okongwu to be more of a floor spacer. And I ultimately have them basically drafting the prospect that they've tried to turn Onyeka Okongwu into. Whether or not they can coexist now would be another interesting story, but I think Chris Sinak's more of a floor spacing big. With that being said, I think he's going to be more of a spot up guy. I think he's kind of like a Jabari Smith, Channing Frye type of dude, where he's not going to be in a lot of your pick and roll action. He's going to be more of your in the dunker spot big, or in the short corner, or in the just out on the wing, just spacing the floor. And I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing in the world. I think this is a guy that moves his feet really well. He's a really great rebounder. He's had 8 games where he's posted 10-plus rebounds here for Houston, and I think that is a strong need for Atlanta overall. I know you just drafted Asa Newell last year, but I don't think this is a guy that clashes ultimately with his playing time. I think this is a guy that you can play them both in the future, and like I said earlier with a couple picks ago, if the NBA starts moving towards this trend of double bigs, I think this is a guy that can definitely coexist alongside another big, whether that's Onyeka Okongwu, Asa Newell, or a future option in the draft or free agency. But I think this is definitely a great pick here for Atlanta in a much needed position and center and just rebounding help overall. Or in the next year, we'll have pick 24, and this is coming from my Houston Rockets. I think this is part of the Chris Paul trade, which is then part of the Jared McCain trade in the past couple of days to now be owned by the Philadelphia 76ers. And I have them selecting Christian Anderson Jr. out of Texas Tech, sophomore, point guard, scoring guard, off-ball guard. Funny enough, kind of plays like Jared McCain. Or it can be at time. I think he's a really good three-point shooter. I think he's a little bit more on ball than what Jared McCain is. And I think that's ultimately why they kind of chose to go a different route. I think this is a smaller guy. He's probably going to get bullied on the defensive end. Definitely don't think his frame is going to allow for him to put on too much more muscle mass, but his scoring ability dating back even to the FIBA tournament of this summer, where he's just an elite scorer. I think this is a guy that you can't take off the floor and show signs. He's playing 39 minutes a game right now. It's one of those rare cases where your 36 minutes are gonna probably drop your numbers, but I think this is a great bench playmaking option here for the 76ers, and I think this is maybe a low risk, high reward pick here at 24, and I don't know, maybe a head scratcher when replacing a player that you already knew could be a solidified piece, but I have them replacing Jared McCain here with Christian Anderson at 24. Now, as we really start to get into the end of these last couple picks, we had 25 here with the Nuggets, and this is kind of where I start to get into a little bit more of, these are more like the championship like caliber teams. I start to pick more towards maybe a role player for them, an instant impact. They might not exactly have the highest upside, but I think these are immediate impact players. And saying that, we'll just get right into this pick here with the Nuggets selecting Alex Karaban out of UConn, a senior. I'm a really big fan of Alex Karaban here. He's a two-time champ. He's a really good wing shooter. He's coming in just under 6'8". This is a guy that tested the combine, so I have his exact measurables. Will probably change again next the end of this year, but we'll see. But he's also he's a pretty decent defender. He's a sneaky defender. He's almost averaging a block and a steal a game. I think I'm curious to see how athletic he really plays against this year's group in the open scrimmages if he does select to play in the combine. But he's a really sneaky defender. He makes a lot of the right plays. I think he has a high IQ that plays into also the offensive end. He's just in the right position a lot of the times, and I think that just a testament to a Dan Hurley coach team where he's been in that system for 4 years. Like I said, he's won 2 championships early on in his career. They have a chance, honestly, to win it again this year. I'm a really big fan of him. I think this is a great two-way player. It's probably a player that can eventually replace Aaron Gordon, maybe even Cam Johnson. I think you can play the 3, the 4. Simple plug and play. You're not going to be skipping a beat here. And I think he's also a very good underrated passer, just being in that Dan Hurley offense where there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of consistent passing, a lot of cutting, a lot of off-ball screening. And I think he's a perfect piece to put with Jokic, where this is a guy that's probably going to shoot 42%, I think, at his highs, maybe at 37, 38% at his lows. He's a really good shooter. He's a consistent defender, too. I think this is a great piece to put with Jokic and the Nuggets here at 25. And then continuing here with the more or less the fit over the overall talent, I think. I have 26 here for the New York Knicks. I have them selecting another really big fan of this guy, but I have them here selecting Zuby Ejiofor out of St. John's, a senior. Really big fan of Zuby. This is a guy that's really developed his game year in and year out. He's added some level of his game. Last year was a little bit of the 3-ball. This year, I think he's started to become a lot better of a passer. He's almost been an engine for the St. John's team at times, while also being maybe the best defender in the nation. I don't know, that might be a little bit of a stretch, but if you watch him play, this guy's had 2 games of 8 blocks, where he's posted 8 blocks. He's had 4 games where he's posted 3+ steals. I mean, he's also had 6 games where he posted 10 plus rebounds. So I mean, this is a very versatile guy. He's like I said, he's also started to turn into a little playmaker. He's a little bit of a low volume 3-point shooter right now. He's only shooting about 1 a game, but I think this is the guy here that can give you the size and the versatility to back up Cat if Mitchell Robinson's still going to be there. The trade talks are all talk again for the next, for another year. I think this is a guy that you can instantly not have too many worries that when Cat comes off the floor. I think, worst case, he can also play with Cat too. I think this is the guy that has a very versatile game. He could play the 4, he could play the 5 if you really need him to. I think he probably will play a little bit more of the 5 at this next level, or depending on wherever he's selected. But another guy that can trend towards this double big lineup of a really good defender. I mean, in some stretches, you might even be able to put him at the point of attack at defender. I think he's going to be a guard center. He's going to be able to guard everybody, almost kind of like a little bit like a Colin Murray Boyles from last year's draft of South Carolina. But it's a very, very interesting defender here, and I really am a big fan of Zuby Ejiofor. And I think he has an elite work ethic, probably the best work ethic in this class. And I think the sky's the limit. I think he's going to be continuously develop, and I'm curious to see how much more he's going to develop here in the next couple of years, being a little bit over a prospect here at 22. You think he's going to be 23 coming in his rookie year, but I don't know. I'm a really big fan here at Zuby Ejiofor here for the Knicks at 26, and I think this is a great pick for them overall. All right, and then next year we have the Celtics here at 27, and this is a team that's suffering, not really suffering actually, they're thriving without Jason Tatum this year and kind of just being carried by Jaylen Brown and friends. But I have them here stockpiling another great pick, I think, in what's going to be another great asset for the Boston Celtics come next year when Tatum gets fully healthy. And I have him here selecting Braden Burries out of Arizona, another freshman. He kind of struggled a little bit earlier on to start out the year. I kind of was like, maybe he might come back for his sophomore year, but he's really found his footing on this. And it's going to end up being a really good Arizona team. And I think they're going to make a deep push here and come March. But he's really a great complement guard. I mean, funny enough, again, this is a team that's going to be selecting a guy that I think has a great comparison in Derek White to his game. I think he's coming in a little bit stronger than what Derek White would be coming in out of, Colorado for his draft. But I think he has some playmaking elements. He can be a little bit of a 2. He can play some 1 here and there. I think he's a really great form. I don't think they're going to have to work on his shot really too much more. He's shooting 38% of the time of this recording. And he's shooting 4 threes a game. Like I said, a really great complement piece. He's really comfortable attacking closeouts, coming off of curl screens. He likes to get to his right. He's just a really good complement piece here for Boston. And I think you get another strong defender, a guy that wants to shoot a good amount of threes. He's not going to be a fall-off again for your bench here come a few years. I think this is a great piece that you're going to stockpile. And we've already seen the emergence of players like Nimi Keita this year. We've seen Baylor Shireman give him some really good minutes. We've seen Jordan Walsh be really solid from at times. And I think this is another guy that you're going to stockpile and eventually add to what's going to be a championship-level team here in Boston. And then closing out their last 3 picks here, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers, and this is by way of the San Antonio Spurs, but I have them here selecting Trayvon Brazile out of Arkansas. I think it's the 5th-year senior. He did have a season-ending injury earlier on. I think this would be his sophomore year, his first sophomore year. But this is a guy that I think's really started to come on towards the past 5 or 6 weeks here. It's another versatile defender here. He's going to play either your 4 or your 5, and I think that's a huge need for the Cavs right now. I think they're really lacking center depth or big depth overall. And this is a guy that really can move his feet too. I think this gives you a lot of similarities to Mobley. I don't think he's obviously the type of defender that Devin Mobley can be, but he definitely could be a rim protector at times. I think he's comfortable being out in the perimeter. He can slide his feet. He can switch on to some guards occasionally and play out in the perimeter in the pick and roll. I think this is a great bench piece that you can have when Mobley's not playing, when Jared Allen's not playing. You could spot play him here and there. This is a guy that's shooting almost 40% from 3 this year. He's only taking about threes a game, but that is like almost 40% of his shots. So he's taking a lot of threes, or he's getting dunks. It's the guy that's playing above the rim. He's comfortable attacking closeouts. Guy comfortable at the dunker spot, comfortable in the lob threat. This is a really just versatile guy here at you're getting towards the end of the first round. He's starting to live up some of the hype that he had when he initially transferred from Missouri to Arkansas, but unfortunately he's had some knee injuries. Like I said, he had a little bit of scandal earlier with Arkansas and a weird year with Trayvon Mark, but here when he stuck with Calipari and came back again for his, like I said, his fifth year, senior year, he's really blossomed into a stretch big that's versatile to be a rim protector, and I think that's a huge piece that the Cavs could use here come next year, where they're really going to need 82 games of just great center play, and I think he might be able to help you a little bit in the playoffs come the right situation in the right matchup. But I think this is a great pick here for Cleveland, and I think that this is ultimately probably going to be a fan favorite once you see a few of the highlight plays he's going to make for the dunks and the blocks, and maybe a couple popping or catch and shoot threes, pick and pop threes. And I really like his game here for the Cavs at 28. And then wrapping it up almost here, we have the Dallas Mavericks back on the clock here. This is a pick they just traded for part of the Anthony Davis trade, which was coming from Oklahoma City originally. And I have them here getting, I think, what might be the steal at the end of this draft. And I have them here selecting Malik Thomas. Now, this is another freshman out of Arkansas, and this would be the record-breaking pick here with 17 freshmen selected in the first round, breaking the record-setting year in 2017 of 16 freshmen selected. But I think Malik here is probably one of the best scorers in this class. Just a pure scorer, elite scorer. He can score in many different ways, off one leg, step backs, getting to the basket, deep three-point range, mid-range. Just a really fun player to watch. But coming with that offense, it's a bit of tunnel vision. I think he does miss some open or teammates here, some in there. He does tend to take some bad shots, but I think with some good NBA coaching, some more development, I think John Calipari's definitely been working on it with him. But I think he also needs to become a bit of a defender. This is more kind of like, a great comparison would be like Cam Thomas, but it's not the greatest defender. But this is the difference between him and Cam Thomas. This is a guy that wants to get better on defense. He wants to work. He's said multiple times he wants to become better. He's always in the gym. I think this is a guy that really, outside of the steal numbers, can sit down and learn to defend and sit down and be not maybe an elite defender, but maybe a plus defender come certain nights. And I think with the scoring ability, I think this can be a great pick here for the Dallas Mavericks and what's ultimately becoming a rebuild. You pair him with Cooper Flagg and then what becomes Kingston Flemings here at 7. I think this is a great pairing here for the Dallas in the future. I think you get an elite scorer to pair up with two really good defenders that can both fill it up in Kingston and Coop. And I think this Dallas fans ultimately, I don't think you forget about the Luka trade, but maybe you make your fans a little bit more happy going forward in the future and what could be an exciting young trio for the Dallas Mavericks fans. Now here finally with our last pick. This is owned now by the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is coming from the Detroit Pistons in a trade deadline move where they were trying to clear some cap space in pursuing Giannis. Can't fault them for it. I think this is still a great draft. So I think trading back ultimately just gives you a chance to get a player on a cheaper contract to pair up with Ant, hopefully going forward, and maybe you get Giannis, maybe you get another future superstar. But I think that still isn't the worst thing in the world for them. I think you can't hate the pursuit of Giannis, but I have them here selecting Ellie Cadell out of Michigan, junior. And finally, you're going to run on freshman ends, basically. But I think this is a great playmaker. I think this is a team that really needs a point guard. I think Mike Conley's game is just falling off a cliff, and we've seen some resurgence in Bones Highland's career, which has kind of been fun as a fan. He's a fun player to watch, but he ultimately gave up on the Rob Dillingham experiment. I don't think he was as complete of a project coming out of college. I think he's a really fun highlight reel, but he wasn't the strongest. He wasn't as efficient when he got to this level, and I think you replace that here with the guy that he's now is still going to be a good playmaker. He's really developed his three-point shot tremendously in the past couple of years. Coming in his freshman year, he's shooting 19%, I think 34 last year at UNC, and then now he's over at 40% here at 4 attempts a game too. So he's become a lot more confident in his three-point shot. I think that really shows signs that maybe in the future he's going to just continuously be a consistent knockdown three-point shooter. And if you compare that with the elite quickness that he possesses, and the downhill ability and the selflessness to get others involved in the game before he gets himself in the game. This is a low turnover guy too. Cut back on his turners from 3 to 2 this year. I really like this pick here. That you get another stronger, bigger point guard. I think this pairs well with Anthony Edwards and a team that really does need some point guard play to help get this team over the edge. And I think you end the first round here on a little bit cheaper of a contract player, and I think maybe it might not be a consensus first round pick here for a lot of people, maybe not even a draft pick of this class, but this is a guy that came into college early, is only really supposed to be a sophomore. I think you're still getting a really young guy, a lot of room to develop in. You're getting a former 5-star, and you're just basically stashing him away to be a great role player, or even maybe a contributing piece for your team to pair up with a superstar. And I think you have to take that chance when you can. And I think it's a great pick here to wrap off the first round draft. And lastly, here, just wrapping up the end of this video, I just want to say a huge thanks if you're still here with me. This is a process that I'm going to start hopefully putting out videos maybe every 2 weeks. Come the end of the draft cycle, or the end of the college basketball cycle, I'm going to start putting out more of a mock draft, individual player breakdown, and more of a gym highlighting segment. I really like the second round. I like the undrafted prospects. Those are my bread and butter. I really do enjoy those underdog stories, and I think that's a lot of what I can I guess portray to the public here. And going forward, I think that's a lot of what I'm going to put out. I think that the mock drafts are going to try to come hopefully every 2 weeks, whether or not that's actually what's going to stick to. But I'd like to get in a better cycle of this and start really starting to put out some videos. I think this is a really great draft year. I think this is one of the best in, I don't know, at least my recent memories. I really just think this is a great year to overall just get into content and putting this out for everybody. And then hopefully you stuck around and enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the future. Thank you.